it was funny, Cole. I was out yesterday, and a buddy of mine who's an Auburn grad came up to me and apologized. He goes, I'm so sorry that we are the reason why probably Alabama had the confidence to beat Georgia, and the reason why they're probably going to win the national championship, because we didn't know how to defend Alabama on a 4th and 31 to end the game. I mean, really, like that play will go down as one of the greatest plays in Alabama history if Alabama finds a way to win a national championship. Because if that play didn't happen, I don't care if you beat Georgia. A 11-2 Alabama was not going to be in the playoffs over FSU. Hell, even if they beat Georgia, there might have been a case for Georgia at 12-1 losing Alabama to be that team instead of FSU. So like that play, the ripple effects from there are crazy. I don't want to get into all that, but I want to get into, obviously you're an Auburn grad, you're close to the program. It's been a kind of an interesting year, some highs, and then a really low of lows the last 2 weeks of the season. Lost to New Mexico State, got embarrassed, and then that just horrendous way to end that game versus Alabama. Where does the program go from here? What's your confidence level with Hugh, and what should we expect this offseason from the Tigers heading into next year?
My confidence level in Coach Freeze is really high. Next year, it's hard to tell. I mean, what are you going to have? I was pretty excited about some of the guys that they brought in the transfer portal. Some of them didn't work out. Like I thought Jair Shorter would be a really good receiver. I thought Rivaldo Fairweather would be a good tight end. One of those worked out, one of them didn't. They've got to find some receivers. I think they still need to work on quarterback. I don't know if Peyton Thorne is just going to be the answer to get to 8 or 9 wins next year. Defensively, I thought they had a good year this year under Ron Roberts. You need a little bit more up front. They need pass rushers. They don't have enough of those. But I do think Hugh's building it the right way. There's more alignment right now than there's ever been since I've been alive, since I've been around Auburn football. And let's be real, with the way things have happened historically, that's probably the most important part. Are the boosters or the people who have the money that are in control, especially now with NIL, and are the people with the collective and the fans and the alumni and the lettermen and the players, are they as closely aligned as ever? That's probably a bigger deal at Auburn even than a lot of other places. So, and I think it is. He's got a great class he's putting together right now from the high school perspective. They're going to attack the portal again. I think he'll make maybe a staff change or two. But I have a lot of confidence in Hugh Freeze and what he's doing. I mean, I think he's going to get it right, and I think he's going to win a lot of games.
I had Auburn twice this year, and always the big discussion was obviously Hugh Freeze giving up the play calling duties to Philip Montgomery, and at times he took him back, whether that's for a quarter or two or entire game. Kind of really felt like that game versus Alabama was led by Hugh. Yeah. Is that also a decision made this offseason where you think he kind of says like, you know what? I know it's hard to do in today's world with all these responsibilities that I have as a head coach, especially here in the SEC. But like, I have to call plays going forward. Like, do we think he makes that full change come next season?
I don't know if it'll ever be full, but I do think what's going to happen is it'll be run his way. It'll be his offense. And I think he thought that Philip Montgomery's offense with his were closely aligned. And so he could just sort of let him have it, but it would still be what Philip wanted. I think now Hugh will probably draw up the game plan, probably have a lot of the call sheets, and he might not have the play-to-play calling all the time, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he just says, I'm doing this from here on out. This is where I made my money. This is how I got here. This is who I am. I'll get people to work for me or under me to help me with all the other stuff, but by God, I'm going to call the offensive plays. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And honestly, like you said, Aaron, you and I have a pretty good idea of when it was him, and it looked a lot better and it looked a lot different. Probably what they need to do. So, I mean, I said it about Malzahn for years when he was at Auburn. Like, buddy, you're not here because you're a great head coach somewhere else, which Hugh has been a good head coach in the places, but you're here because you can call plays, and that's what's going to help your team more than anything else go win football games. So go do it. You just got to have the right people around you to be able to manage the rest of what comes with being a college head football coach today.
You know what drives me crazy? Because someone just asked in the chat, like, is Auburn's only role essentially to be a nuisance to Alabama at the end of the season? I think people forget the past 2 decades, Auburn has won a national championship, been to another national championship, and then in 2004 was undefeated. But that was the crazy year where they didn't get to a national championship. So always the comparison of like, oh, A&M is equivalent to Auburn. I'm kind of like, when's the last time A&M was in a national championship? Auburn has, once again, they've been to 2, should have been to a 3rd. When people say that, I don't know how much you've heard it, but like when people do say like, oh, A&M is the equivalent of Auburn because of, essentially being in the same state as Texas and being in the same state of Alabama. What is your thought of the I guess you can call it somewhat little brother mentality, but once again, like you've been the national championships, you've won them, you've won Heisman's.
Yeah, I would go back to, like you said, 2010 winning a national title, 2013 playing Florida State and being in that game late, having an opportunity to win it late in the national championship game, 2017 knocking off back-to-back number ones in a 3-week span and going to the SEC championship game. So I feel like that's a little bit more than a nuisance to Alabama and Georgia. Because before Georgia started this run, I mean, Auburn was winning a national championship and SEC championships and in that SEC championship game. So I think Auburn has a much higher ceiling than just being bothersome to Alabama and Georgia on an annual basis.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. Chat wants to know, do you think Thorne stays? Like, do you think Hugh sticks with Thorne? Or, I mean, there's a couple good quarterbacks right now in the portal that I would be like, all right, you go to Auburn, I see a massive upgrade.
I think a lot of due diligence is going to be done on different quarterbacks in the portal. I know there's one specifically right now that they're working on. But you also have to understand that might not happen. So then you have to have a little bit of confidence, at least with what's on your roster. I wouldn't expect all the quarterbacks that are on the Auburn roster currently to be on the roster next year. But we heard a lot about what Hugh Freeze said with Holden Gariner in the spring and then late in the fall, even though he wasn't ready to play right away. But then still Peyton Thorne, maybe not from a passing perspective, but he did get a better grasp of that offense as the season progressed. I thought from a read perspective, he really had a good feel for what he was doing and how he was operating it late. But if he's going to pass and be the same kind of passer that we saw this year, Auburn can't win with that. They've got to find somebody that can help them through the air and consistently push the ball down the field. So I regardless of what Hugh says about his confidence level in Peyton Thorne, I don't think anything definitive is going to be decided until we get to fall camp.
And I've told you this before too. I know there's always going to be talk about quarterback, but let's not forget, Auburn fans, like you haven't had elite receiving play in years. Like even go back to Bo Nix. Like I thought Bo Nix's last year at Auburn, Bo Nix was playing great. He had no support. He had no help. Like Auburn needs to bring a quarterback, especially in this era. T-Bob and I talk about all the time. Like you look at the really good offenses. Yeah, there's great quarterback play, but there's also first round talent at the receiving position. Yeah. And Auburn doesn't even have draftable guys right now at the receiving position. Maybe Fairweather at tight end, but like true receivers that can win consistently. And I've talked to Hugh about this too. I know you have. Like that's his biggest issue right now. I think more than quarterback. He's like, I don't have my best receivers are like 5'9". He's like, I need that 6'1", 6'2" guy that can run, make plays down the field. And that has been to me one of the biggest glaring weaknesses from this Auburn team for the past few years. Jonathan Bernstein in the chat, T-Bob, Aaron, Cole, and McElroy are on the Mount Rushmore of college football. Just want to let you know, all four of us yesterday made the top 100 from, I want to say Boomer Schumer. What am I screaming?
Big Game Boomer.
Big Game Boomer. Top personalities. Cole coming in at a fresh number 3. Cole?
Let's go. Let's go. I mean, listen, if Boomer knows lists, that's all I know. I mean,
Boomer knows lists. I moved from like 48 to 28, so I'm in the top 30. Appreciate everyone on Snaps helping that. T-Bob finally got in there, which I think is more of like a little joke between him and Big Game Boomer, honestly, but he's in there. And Greg, I believe, is somewhere in there as well. So appreciate you for putting us on that list. Big Game Boomer.